Hi everybody. Okay, welcome back. So what we're going to do now is we've got the body of the movie itself. So for this part, we're going to sort of start building our layers and prepping ourselves and building the scene so that we can begin the animation. The first thing we do is to create our background. So let's go ahead on layer 1 here. I'm going to double click that and label that background. So a little BKGRND. I'm just going to, oh, hello there, BK. There we go. A little bit of background. And I like to go ahead and abbreviate. I don't know why, but I do. Look at the background. So I'm going to go ahead and select my color that I'm going to use. It's going to be that white. I'm going to put some white in there as a default. There we are. And use my rectangle and click and drag myself a rectangle that goes all the way across there. You can't really see that, but I'll let go there. And I'll know it's there because I'll go and click on the All Select tool, select it once, and notice it's pixelated. That means there's an object there, so it's all there. Now, if you want to have fun with it and put a color down, you certainly can. We could change that, say, even do a green. What the heck? Nice and showy. What we're going to do is leave it there. And so what I'm going to do now is I click off the side. Right, I've got that green in there. We got a bit of a looks like a little bit of a transparency there. Let's click on the alpha here, and let's drag that slider and go up to 100%. There we go. Now we're full strength. All right, so now we have this on here. What I'm going to do is, that's my background color. Now I need to go ahead and add the line, basically, which is going to go ahead and pull this through. So I need to go ahead and add a guide layer line, okay, a guide line. And the guide line is going to sit right on top here. So I'm going to add a new keyframe right there, a layer, excuse me, and I'm going to go ahead and double click it and label it guide. Now the guide is there for you just to help you figure out where that path of motion is going to go for the ball as it moves through the scene. So I'm going to go ahead and use the paintbrush, but what I'm going to do is on that paintbrush, I'm going to go ahead and select a slightly different color, right, for that paintbrush. Let's go ahead and do maybe, something that's going to pop nice. Let's do a yellow. Let's do a yellow for that. So I've got my guide layer, brush selected. I'm going to make that guide layer a little bit thicker. Let's take that up to about a number 7 here. And I'm going to start in the upper left-hand side, and I'm going to draw that in as it comes down. Boom. And it rises up, goes about halfway up the screen, and down, and it goes about halfway that high, and then goes off. Now this is the path of motion, or the arc that the ball will follow as it's going through its paces as a bounce. Generally, as a ball comes down, it diminishes in its bounce or its strength of its bounce by half with each bounce as it's coming down. Now again, this is going to be your guide layer. It's going to be at the bottom. So I'm going to lock the background, lock the guide layer. So I've got that all set. What I need to do now is to go ahead and draw the ball. And for the ball itself, I need to make a perfect circle. And for that perfect circle, I'm going to click and drag myself an oval. And it's going to be, I'll make it nice and red so it shows up really well. So let's go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to add a new layer and double click it and call it the ball, my ball layer. That'll be on top because that's going to stay on top again because the guide is underneath it and the background will be below at the lowest point. So now with the ball layer, I'm going to go and change that color up here. Let's go a nice bright red. There we are. And let's go for the background. Let's give it a nice little outline there. Give it a black stroke. And I'm going to go ahead and move what's on my stage here. I'm going to move it to the right to get it out of the way. Hold my space bar and then left click and drag, move it off to the side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click and drag myself that oval. But I need to go to the rectangle, left click and hold, and go down to the oval tool. And there it is. Okay. So now with the oval tool, I'm going to go ahead and holding the shift key, so that way I lock the proportion. I'm going to hold the shift and left click and drag myself a perfect circle. That's about the size of a quarter. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. And that's number 1. Now after I've got that done and drawn, I need to go ahead and lock that object. So I'm going to select my black arrow, click it once, and notice it's all pixelated. I need to lock it. And to lock it, with it selected, I'm going to go Command or Control, depending if you have a Mac or PC, and hold that, and then go with the letter G. And you get a box around it. So Command G will lock that letter for you. And what I'm going to do now is I need to make 2 copies of this ball. One copy I'm going to squash a little bit, and the other one I'm going to squash a little bit more. I'm going to use these 3 instances of the ball as my character moving through the background on the timeline. So let's go ahead and do that. And to make my exact copy, once it's been grouped together with a Command G, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to hold the Alt key on the keyboard and then left click and drag off. And there's one copy, and then hold the Alt key and drag off again, and there's copy number 2. So I have 3 perfect copies of it. Now ball number 1, I'm going to move a little higher because I don't want that to change. It's going to stay just as it is. Ball number 2, move that up here, and I'm going to use the free transform tool. That's this tool right here. And I click on it one time, and you notice I get this nice squash here. What I want to do is I want to squash it just a little bit. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to the center top, and you notice like my cursor turns into a black double arrow. I'm going to go ahead and just left click and drag down a little bit, and then drag out to the side just a hair. Look at that. Just a little bit of a squash, so it's a little bit more of an oval. Okay. Now I go to the bottom one here, and this one I'm going to click on that center one again, and this time I'm going to go a little further down and a little further out. So it has like an extreme squash on it. So you don't want to make it so big so as to add mass to it, but at the same time you don't want to make it so thin that it looks like it's gone flat. Okay, you want to have 3 very clear, distinct variations on that ball. One that has full regular size, one has just a very little subtle squash, and one that is quite squashed. Okay, now with these 3 instances of the ball, we're going to be moving these through the timeline. But what's going to happen is that we basically don't want anything at all to happen for the first 2 seconds of the movie, right? We kind of want to let this sort of sit just where it's at. So what I'm going to do here is on the ball layer and the guide and the background layer, I'm going to extend these out for about 2 seconds. So I'm going to lock those, and then I'm going to go to the 2-second mark here, and I'm going to go to the background layer, click on that, and hit F5 once, extends that out. Go to the guide layer, F5, extends that out, and then I go to the ball layer, and F5, that extends that out. Now, timing-wise, what we've gone ahead and done here is we've created ourselves basically 2 seconds, nothing happens. What it's going to do in the movie is it's going to give a 2-second pause. So when the movie starts, there'll be 2 seconds of just nothing on the screen, and then the ball drops. And that's where we come in now. So what I'm going to do now is, with the ball there, I'm going to go ahead and go forward again. And this time, I want to go ahead and move the guide layer and the background layer. I want to move those forward a little bit. So let's go ahead and let's go forward in time here. And let's take it over to about, let's go 5-second mark here. So I'm going to click on just the guide layer and hit F5 and extend out even further. Then hit the background layer, F5, F5, and extend that one out. There we go. So now I have both of those extended out, but the one I don't have extended out is layer number 2 right here, or excuse me, the 2-second mark where the ball is, because this is where the ball is going to make its appearance. So if I use my space bar and move over, there's my ball. It's sitting right over there. So now let's talk about moving the ball and moving it through the space and getting it down. So the ball itself, our first ball image, is going to start right up over here. So I'm going to unlock this layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that ball image, and then I'm going to right click and I'm going to say copy. Okay. Then in the next blank notch in the timeline, I'm going to right click and insert a blank keyframe. Now I do this only for that first instance because I need to get a copy of it here without bringing the other 2 drawings with it. I want to keep those back on that first frame. So I've got a blank keyframe here, and I'm going to go ahead down to the stage here, and I'm going to go ahead and say paste in place. There's that ball. So I'm going to put that ball right up there, and I'm going to line up the center of that dot right there, the anchor point, with the center of the line as it's coming in. So when we start in the movie, there's nothing on stage, and then we start, boom, and there's that ball sitting right there on frame 1. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a series of copy and paste, and copying and pasting that ball as it's falling down toward the ground. What's going to happen is that if you figure this point at the top here is that we're at an arc, a bit like here. And when we have an arc where actually more of the ball images are overlapped, so it seems slower, but as it moves its way out of the arc, there's going to be more space between the ball as it's falling down, as you've seen in the drawings and in the demonstration animation on the module page. So here what I'm going to do right now is going to right click, and I'm going to go ahead and say copy frame, and now I can go right here, right click, and say paste frame. So I'm going to paste that frame, and then I'm going to move it down. Okay, I'll bring it in just in a stage. Now that same ball is still in the memory, so I don't have to go back and recopy it again. From here on out, I can just go command paste, command paste, command paste, and it'll keep putting it in. Watch, I'll show you right here. and I will say, go ahead and say paste frame. And there it is again. So now I just move it down a little further, right? But you can't see the previous ones that are here. We would like to do that. So now that we have a couple down, let's talk about that. This little guy right here, this little double circle, this is my onion skin. Let me go ahead and turn that on. Aha, look at that. Instantly I can see where the ball was at the beginning, the midpoint, and now where I'm at here.